Hi, friends. Welcome to our Journey of a Joyful Life podcast. I'm Melodie, your host, and today I am really excited that we get to talk about Tia. If you were here and you heard our last podcast, I talked a little bit about the adoptions of my adopted kiddos, and I didn't talk about Tia because I felt like it was really important to talk about Tia with my really dear friend Rachel. So Rachel's going to be joining us today on the podcast, and Tia's story of adoption is incredible. So I can't wait for you to listen in today. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining in. I'm so excited to have Rachel Pankratz here. Rachel is a dear, dear friend for many, many years. And I would like for her to kind of get to introduce herself. So Rachel, tell us who you are.
So I'm Rachel, and I have 4 kiddos. I have 2 biological children and 2 adopted daughters, and they were adopted out of foster care. And so we were foster parents and went through the whole CPS process and ended up adopting them back in 2020.
Awesome. Rachel and I go way, way back to elementary school. We met each other. We were both homeschooled. That's a fun story. And we were in the same 4-H club, Morning Stars 4-H club, way back when. And we have some really great stories. Probably won't share all of them, but of our relationship from the inception. And so it's fun. I would say, like, from my perspective, I guess we were friends all the way through high school, or, you know, not super close, but friends through high school. And then we kind of went to different colleges and did different things. And then
You went to China.
I went to China, and I was a little bit closer with your oldest sister, and then didn't really get connected. I didn't really even know what you were doing, actually. Yeah. I knew you were doing music because we both did music in college. And then whenever I came back from China, then I realized, like, a little bit more in depth that you were fostering, you were a foster mom. And my picture in my mind of whenever I came back from China was at the Moses Closet, like the first time whenever I saw you, and you were helping us to have clothes and all the different things that we needed when we came back. And your dad so sweetly brought us like a washing machine or a dryer or something whenever we first came, and brought it into our home. It was so sweet. And so then I think that connection right there at the beginning, I just needed a friend, and, you know, had been gone for so long, and the Lord just provided you at that time. It was so sweet. But I think at the Moses Closet that day was when I told you about Tia.
It was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
As I was remembering, I was thinking, I think that was the first time we talked about it. And I had spoken at some churches, and I had gone around just talking about my kids that were left behind in China. And Tia's story for us was a little bit different, because Tia came into our home a few months before Chen and I got married, and she lived in our home. All kids that we had fostered in China first lived in our apartment before we would decide, do we move them to a different apartment? Are they stable enough to be with the IE, or do they need to live with us? And when Tia first came, she had a lot of physical things that we didn't understand, like just her abilities and how she processed food and things like that. So she stayed with us because of that originally.
And she was 4?
And she was 4. Yep. And she was such a little tiny nugget. And then she just attached really, really well to us. And to me first, because Chen and I weren't married at first whenever she was there. And so, I mean, we were very attached, she and I. And then she attached really well to Sammy and Yame and George. And yes, she just never ended up leaving our apartment. She stayed in our apartment. And then as the time went on, she would, as she had language, she would say, you know, Tia is mommy and daddy's baby. And Tia is mom and daddy's baby. And in English, she learned those words in English. And so she would speak a little bit of Mandarin, a little bit of English, and she was so cute. And she talked all the time. She loved to talk, even though some people couldn't always understand what she was saying. She was always talking. And so then every time we would have to go to America to, like, whenever I gave birth to Julie, we went to America, and she was so sad. She never understood why we would leave and we wouldn't take her, because we could take Yame, but we couldn't take Sammy and George. So she and George, I think the first time we came to America, when we had Julie, she had been with us a year, and she had George with her, and she and George really connected and got close. Before that, I don't think she could care really less about George, but George was kind of her connector at that time. And from that moment on, they were siblings. They had their little fights, their little tiffs that they would have, and just like siblings. And we always just thought, Tia was going to be our kid. We were going to adopt Tia one day. But Sammy and George's adoption was already started, and we needed to get through Sammy and George's adoption. And at that time, we had no idea that we would have to leave China. And so we had just planned as soon as Sammy and George's adoption was done, then we would do Tia's adoption. And that was whenever we had to leave China. And so when we left, all the children, all of our foster kids had to leave our home. And I talked a little bit about that last time, but they actually let Tia stay. So they let George and Sammy stay, and they let Tia stay because Tia was from this really tiny village, and they didn't have an orphanage. And she just kind of was in an office there for a couple of hours before they brought her to Guiyang. So she wasn't really in any kind of foster situation before she came to live with us. And our only story of her was that a man had found her on the streets, and a man had been caring for her. And somehow the police or the government got wind of that and felt like that was inappropriate. They didn't know who he was. They didn't have anything to say that he had been inappropriate. He had been very loving and kind to her. But they took her away from him, and that's whenever they brought her to Guiyang. And so her village was probably about 2 hours from Guiyang. And we didn't know it at the time, but when she came, she was profusely throwing up. She threw up all the time. And when I had been at the foster office picking up a child, and I left the foster office and I did this big circle where we went to have to go home. And as we were circling around, we were on the road back to our house, and he called me on my phone and said, Melodie, Xiaomei, we have this baby, and she's a little bit bigger, and she's probably going to die. So the Chinese lady won't take her. She's brought her back to me, and she's really, really sick, and we don't know what to do. Can you come back and pick her up? And I was like, oh my goodness. I think I actually had 2 babies in the car that day, Bella and Mike. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I have Bella and Mike. I'm not sure if I can come back and pick her up. And I hadn't seen her. The Chinese lady had already taken her home before I had gotten there for my 2 kids that day. So I was like, okay, all right, we'll be back, And I got there and I went inside, and here she was, and she looked so sickly. She was just laying on the couch. And I asked him, what is wrong with her? And I didn't mean that, and I didn't ask that in a way of like disability wise, but medically, what is wrong with her? Why is she so sick? And he was like, we don't know. She's just been throwing up for hours, and the Chinese lady's afraid she's going to die. And I'll never forget, he said, well, if she dies, it's fine. Just bring her back if she dies. And I thought, oh my goodness, I could get in such trouble if a kid died in my home. Why was he being so flippant about this? He was not normally like this. And so anyway, I thought, well, we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure out what's wrong with her. And so we put her in the car, and she threw up all the way home. And it was like 30 minutes in the car, and mountain roads and all these things. And so we get to our house, and she's still throwing up. And Anna was there. She was at my house during that time. And I was like, Anna, we have to figure out, what are we going to do? And so, she threw up a couple more times. I'm like, well, let's not give her anything to eat. Let's give her a bath and a shower. And I had found some 18-month-old clothes that, because I wasn't expecting her to come home that day, because I hadn't been prepared for it. So I didn't have anything ready. And so I told Anna, just go find something, it looks like about 18 months. Her little waist was so tiny, and she was 4, but it was the summertime, and it was really hot. And it was this cute little polka dotted, like, bloomer outfit that an American person had sent for us to have, and a cute little brand. And when we pulled it out, she had looked so sickly, but we got her out of the shower. We pulled it out, and she went, and her face just lit up. And I was like, oh my goodness, she's alive in there. There's something in there. Oh, little did I know at that time she would be such a girly girl and love all the frilly things. And it had a little ruffle at the bottom and a little ruffle on the sleeve. And I took a picture of her in it because she was so cute, but she was still really lethargic. And we made it through a few hours without her throwing up. So we slowly added in some things, and then she just didn't throw up anymore. And I thought, well, maybe she had a stomach virus. I really couldn't because there was no back information. I got nothing. Like, was she sick in her previous area? We didn't know anything. So we went a few days, and then we had to take her back to the foster office. They wanted to check her out. And so we took her there, and then she started throwing up in the car. And I was like, she has car sickness. She's literally car sick. And as I thought about it, I'm like, she drove 2 hours from the mountain village all the way. She just kept on throwing up with that lady, probably because they hadn't given her any food, because they probably knew she was car sick. And I just started putting all the things together. And the foster boss said, I thought you told me she was better, because when we showed up, she had been throwing up. And I'm like, no. I think I figured it out. I think she's car sick. So I did a ton of research on like what helps kids whenever they're car sick when you don't have Dramamine or something like that, because they didn't have Dramamine. And we did some things, and she got a lot better, and it was amazing. And she started to really flourish and just come alive. And anyway, she was a little flower girl in our wedding, and she just really thought, like, this is where I belong. So as she just, thrived in all the things and fit into our family so perfectly, then when we were forced to leave China, we didn't know what we were going to do, because we had to leave her there. And we tried to explain it to her, Tia, Mom and Daddy have to go to America, but one day we're going to come back, and you're not going to stay here. I just believed that from the bottom of my heart, like, you're not going to be here forever. And one day we're going to come back for you. One day something's going to happen. And I was in such a traumatized state at that time. I didn't know, but all I could know was that I wasn't going to allow her to be there forever, and if it was in my power. And I obviously didn't want to leave her hopeless either, even though I didn't know the truth. And so my one goal whenever I came back was this list of kids that I knew their paperwork was ready. I knew that they could be adopted. Like, these are the kids that we have to focus on finding families for, because they've got to get out of that situation. And of course, Tia, she was at the top of my list, and all my other babies were too. But she already had such a strong connection. So then I saw you, and I'm like, Rachel might be able to adopt her, because Rachel's a great foster mom. She already has some kids. And I remember that day you had a little baby that was crawling around, and he had some disabilities. And I'm like, okay, she's not against disabilities. And I hadn't really checked in with you, like, well, what kind of children do you foster? And are you even open to disability? I just sort of like blurted it, like, okay, so what if?
I don't even think you were that direct about it. You were just telling me about her. And I honestly don't remember everything that you said, because I was so heavy with the Lord saying, you've got to listen. You've got to go get Tia. You've got to adopt Tia. And so I truly don't. It feels like that whole visit in that foster closet was a blur, because I couldn't shake the pressure that I felt from the Lord that we were supposed to do this, and this was supposed to be, our child. And so we didn't have the money to do it. And so, you had mentioned there was a family that was willing to help pay for it. And so I was like, okay, well, you know what? We can do this. We do not have the money, but we have the home. And so we can bring her in, and we can adopt her, and we can give her a family and a home. And so then I went home to my husband. And that was the fun part, because we had already decided when our current children in our home were either moved or adopted that we were closing our home and we were done. Fostering, it had just really taken a toll on our marriage and our children and our family, and it was really, really hard. And so I told him, I said, you need to sit down, because I need to talk to you about something. And I don't think he had any clue. He had no clue what I was about to drop on him. And I told him about Tia and the things you had said. And I said, I just feel like this is what we're supposed to do, that we're supposed to give Tia a home. And it took him a week or so, I think, to come around. And then he said, you're right. This is what we have to do. Let's get started. What do we need to get started? And so that was when you told us about the agency, and we got that process started, and we started our home study, and got the ball rolling. And I think from start to finish, had COVID not delayed things, it would have been like a 10-month process from when we did our home study to when we were going to travel to China.
Yeah,
to go and pick her up. It was very fast.
Which was incredible, because typically there's always things that make
we had been told longer. 1.5 to 2 years to expect. And so 10 months was wonderful. We were thrilled, and we were scheduled to go get on a flight in February of 2020 and go pick her up.
And then February of 2020 happened.
Then COVID happened and China shut down. So we got the call from our agency saying, your flights have been canceled. The orphanages are closed. We don't know when you're going to get to go. They've not said no at this point, but they've not said when. And so we just have to wait. And I remember I didn't want to call you. I did not want to call you and tell you. And I did.
Yeah.
And we just prayed. I mean, we just prayed, and we sent care packages, and we would take pictures of our family and your family together so that we could send pictures to Tia and let her know, you know, we're coming for you, but we also know your family from China. And so hoping that she would feel so much peace and knowing that she had a family coming for her.
Right. And originally, whenever you were going to go, Chuck was going to go and you were going to go, and one of your kids, I think.
Our
right?
oldest son was going to go.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, but then all those tickets.
Yeah, they all got canceled.
They all got canceled, right. And so then you waited a long time.
Yep. I waited a very long time. And then they opened up for a few families that got to go. I think it was like 10 families to start with, and we didn't get the call. And then 10 more families, and then we didn't get the call. I think it was 3 rounds of 10 families that got the call. And
right. And I had gone to China.
You had, that's right. You had gone to China
to
visit.
It had been just burning in my heart because a couple of my kids had gotten to go to their forever families right before COVID, like in like right at the end of December, January, before COVID really, ramped up. It was just in Wuhan or something. And so that was incredible. But there were still a bunch of kids that were waiting that, were almost to the process where you were, almost to the place in the process where you were. And I just felt like the Lord, and when the Lord tells me things, he doesn't always give me a lot of time frame to do them. And so literally I'd felt this overwhelming sense, like, you need to go to China and you need to do something. And I was like, I don't know what to do, and the Lord was like, pray. You need to go to China and prayer walk. And I was like, well, I can do that. But at that point, I hadn't been back since we'd left. I didn't know if they were even going to let me come in. I didn't know what was going to happen. But I thought, again, I got to be obedient to what the Lord's saying. And obviously he's going to lead this mission. And he had given me these really specific points of places I needed to go and told me that Gaoxing needed to go with me. And so I literally kind of like, lots of secret communication went on between she and I, and like I would hold up pictures with words on it in the phone so that she could read it and I wouldn't have to speak it and also didn't have to type it, but then she could read it and I could put the paper down of just like plans that we had where we were going to meet. Whenever I got off the train, I had to fly into the airport, take a train somewhere else, and then she was going to meet me when I came off the train, and we were going to go somewhere and pray first, and then we were going to go visit Diane, and then we were going to head to the places. So my goal was to go to Guiyang, to start in Guiyang, and then visit all the cities where I had kids in orphanages and just pray all around the orphanage, and then I would stay across the street and she would go into the orphanage and we bought some snacks and stuff in each spot. She would take the snacks and then try to check on the kids. And so we did that. And she did get to see some of our kids that we had fostered who were back in the orphanage, and just, a story for a different day, but lots of really hard. But we had been to quite a few places and we still hadn't found Tia. We didn't know where Tia was. She wasn't in the place where we thought she had been. And ironically, she had been left in the foster home for a very long time. And we knew, because one of my contacts in China had told me, they took Tia out of the foster home and they put her somewhere. And that was about 6 months previous to this time. And that's when the urgency inside of me was like, she has never been in an orphanage. And she literally only knows what it's like to be in a family. And like, Lord, what is your purpose in this? I cannot imagine that you want her to live. I just kept thinking, like, if Rachel can't go get her, then at least she's still in that little foster home with the Chinese people. And she gets to see some foreigners sometimes. And she knows people love her. But I think the urgency of not knowing where she was, I just had to find her, And so Gaoxing and I woke up one day. We had just prayed and prayed, like, Lord, please direct us to where she is. And we'd gone to where we thought she was, but the lady there said, I think I know where she is. And we'd actually already been there the day before. And so we went back because they didn't let us in. Right. So Gaoxing went back there and asked specifically is Tia here? And the lady was like, how do you know, who's in my place? And then Gaoxing would say, like, I used to be her teacher in Guiyang, because she did. And I just miss her, and I was hoping to get to check on her and see how she was. And they said, well, she's fine. She's here and she's fine, and you can't see her. And yeah, it feels really hard. I was pretty devastated and just sobbing my eyes out for a long time in the train station. You can only imagine, in a very small town in China with like not very many people, a foreigner sitting in a train station sobbing her eyes out. It's not really pretty, and people stare at you pretty badly. But like, Lord, what are you going to do? What is going to happen? And so I had 3 really close Chinese friends who helped me to make a lot of phone calls to Beijing, phone calls to her orphanage, phone calls to Beijing, phone calls to the government in Guiyang, and like kind of just shake the boat a little bit. And I never made the calls. They didn't know it was me. Hopefully, maybe might have known I was in the city, but very strategically just say, like, there is no reason why she shouldn't get to leave. Right? All these other kids have gotten to leave. She has a family. They're waiting for her. They've already paid all the money. She needs to get to leave. And yeah, and it felt really hard to come back home, not knowing. I mean, basically they said, don't ever call us again. It's not your business. And so then whenever I came home, that's whenever I'm like, we went and took our trip. So we got to go to the adoption agency and see what they can do from a, governmental side. How can they also rock the boat? And they were so sweet to us and kind. And
they were.
Wasn't really sure if they were actually going to be able to do anything.
Yeah. But it was maybe 2 weeks
later,
maybe 2 weeks later, that I got the phone call from the agency saying, this is it. You can go get her. Book your plane tickets. And so I didn't even call my husband first. I called Melodie first, and I said, we can go get her. We had prepared for you to be able to go with me, because at the time, with my kiddos in the situation, either myself or my husband needed to stay home. So he stayed home. I did call him eventually and told him. So we decided he was going to stay home, and Melodie and I were going to travel to go get Tia. And time frame was not ideal, because we had a big fundraiser we were preparing for the school that we were going to miss based on the dates. And so we had to get that all organized and ready to go so that we could step away and go. And so we went in October of 2023. We got to go. And it was a really, really hard trip, but it was really, really incredible and amazing. And she was also car sick. But it was a miracle, because the second we got to America, she never got car sick again.
Yeah.
And so
it's amazing how that works.
Yeah, it was great. And we had prepared ourselves too, because we weren't really sure what the situation was going to look like when she came home, because you were her mom. And she didn't know who I was. And I remember when we got into the adoption office, when I went to the adoption office and she walked in, I said, Tia, I'm so happy to see you. And I gave her a big hug, and I could see she was confused. Why are you calling me Tia? How do you know that that's my name? I just imagined all the thoughts going through her mind.
Because Tia is not her Chinese name.
Tia is not her Chinese name, but Tia was the name y'all gave her. And so that was, she knew Tia. Anyway, so I can just imagine what her thoughts were. And so I signed the papers we have to sign. I give her iPad that I had brought for her, so she could play her little games and distract herself. And on that iPad, I had preloaded pictures of you and your family, and she had found them while I was signing the papers. And she motioned me over and, Mama, and she was pointing. I said, yes, we're going to go see her right now. Do you want to go see her? And I don't know if she understood me or not, but she was excited. And so we made it the long drive from the adoption office to the hotel. And I have that video of Tia walking into the hotel room and seeing you for the first time after all of those years. And not a very emotional person, but it'll get you.
It'll get you. It was, just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's really emotional.
It was sweet.
And I had been to my counselor for many months leading up to the time that you were going to leave, because I knew I needed to prepare my heart. Like, I was just so happy that Tia was going to get out of the orphanage, and even happier that she was going to go to somebody I knew that I lived close to and that I was going to get to see her.
Mm-hmm.
But I also knew that, like, you know, in my heart, she was my child. And
Mm-hmm.
so it hadn't been the first child I shared with someone. You know, I had a lot of foster kids who had been adopted, even by my really dear friends, that I had to
Mm-hmm.
share in my heart. So I knew I could do it. It's just going to be different.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what was she going to be like after all those years, you know, what kind of traumas or extra things had been layered on, you know, and, but oh my gosh, when the door swung open and she like squealed and mama and ran over to me, I mean, it was like all the things, you know, were just wiped away and I was just a puddle. But, yeah, it was hard. It was hard because just navigating, like, Rachel, we had already talked about, like, she was going to call you mommy, and she already called me mama, so we didn't want to change that, at least at the beginning. Yeah. And so I made sure to, like, I told Rachel, like, I'm not going to help with the bath. I'm not going to help with anything. Like, you can do all the mommy things, and I'll just be here, like, the support person. I tried really hard.
You did really great. Tia was real annoyed by it.
Yeah, she was.
She wanted you to do all the things, but you were so good about standing back and letting me try. And Tia and I did build a really sweet connection during that time. We did. She learned to trust me, and I remember we had to go back to the adoption office.
Yeah.
For me to sign all the final papers, and I remember you telling her, "You're going to go, but she's going to stay with you, and you're going to come back." And you could see that she didn't fully believe that. She really thought we were taking her back and we were going to leave her again. And we were standing in the elevator going up to the adoption office, and she wrapped her arms around me and squeezed as tight as she could. And she knew I was a safe person, and she knew she could trust me. And that was the moment that I felt like, okay, I think we can make a connection and a bond. And it may not look the same as y'all's, but we can still have a really good connection and a really good attachment. And then we went back to the hotel. And so I feel like she took a breath after that.
Yeah.
And she really got to start to heal at that point when we came back.
Yeah.
She felt safe.
And we did tell her quite often, you never have to go back there.
Right.
Just to make sure that she knew, like, you're always going to be safe now. And because before we had used the verbiage, we will come back for you.
Right.
For me to be able to say, we came back.
Yeah.
You know, we came back. Miss Rachel and Mr. Chuck adopted you, and we came back, and Mama came with them so that, you know, you could understand, because I would speak in Mandarin to her. And then, you know, Rachel was just speaking English, but just having that for her to know, like, this is it. You know, you don't have to look back. We're just going to move forward, you know, look forward. And
well, and I know when we left to go to Guangzhou, it was like she took another breath. And it was like another load was lifted off of her shoulders. And we left that place, and now we're at this new place. And the only time I was nervous there was when we were getting her visa. And the lady at the American consulate was speaking to her in Chinese and said, "Do you want to go home with your mama?" And she pointed to me and had the look on Tia's face. I don't know if you remember sitting in that office. The look on her face was like, who do I have to go home with? And so you went up there and you were like, you need, basically in a very abstract way, you need to say yes.
Yeah. I know. I was just thinking, don't ruin it.
You want to come home to say yes right now. It's very important. And she did. She said yes. It was I got a little nervous there at that point, because she was like, that is not the mama I want to go home with.
Like, you don't realize this is your means to a way out of here. Like, you've got to do this. And yeah, it was so interesting. And she had, so funny, like when we adopted Sammy and George, she went with us to Guangzhou.
Right.
And so I was sort of hoping, like, maybe she'll piece it together.
Yeah.
We've been here before. She didn't get to go into the consulate because they didn't let her, but she's been here and we've done this. And then Sammy and George left.
Right. And we're yours forever.
Right.
Yes.
And I'd hoped that she had, like, connected the fact that Sammy and George were mine forever, because she didn't see them again. And it's not like I brought them back with me. Right. But I was hoping, like, the pictures on my phone, you know, and showed her all that stuff. And obviously it had William since then. I'll never forget when she looked at that picture and she was looking at everybody, and then she saw William and she was like, who's that? You know, like, who's that kid? Why is he in there? You know? And Adriana also, she's like, what of God, you know? But it was really fun to get to, like, connect some of those dots for her, to hopefully make her feel secure. You know?
And then we got on the plane to head home. And I remember we were walking to the plane on the little, the little alleyway they put you through to get on the plane, and you said, Tia, say bye to China. And she just kind of looked at you and didn't say anything, and she just kept walking. Like, I'm not saying bye.
Yeah. She had her little thoughts about everything.
We are out.
Yeah. This plane is heading somewhere else. Yeah. I think she was so excited just at the anticipation of who she was going to get to see and what she was going to get to do. And also, I just wondered the whole time, like, does she really believe me? I had so much guilt from having to leave her originally, and wondering, like, is she ever going to forgive me? You know, like, will she ever actually be able to comprehend that I didn't want to leave her? And that it wasn't that I chose someone over her,
right?
That I didn't have a choice in that, you know?
Right.
And so hard to explain all that stuff to a child, to a neurotypical child. It's hard,
right? But
to a child that you don't know if they're actually able to comprehend all the things, and it was just really difficult.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like also a dream. Like, I felt like we were living in a dream. Like, I had just been to China. I had barely gotten over jet lag. And then there we were again. And the Lord had done so many mighty works. I was like, this is so incredible. This is just to see the hand of the Lord, you know, fulfill all the things that he had promised. And yeah, then we got to the airport in Houston. I was like, whoa, we just did that. You know,
very early. It was like 5:30 in the morning or something. And very early. Yeah.
And everyone was very excited.
Everyone was so excited.
I remember that escalator ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've ever been to IAH, you know, you're coming down the escalator and the people are all down there, and on one side is all of Rachel's family, and on the other side is all of our family. And
it was a sweet reunion. It was really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we separated, and we went home. We lived a block away from each other at the time. So home, we all, went home. And looking back at that moment in time, I hold a lot of guilt to that, because I feel like that was so traumatizing for Tia to watch you walk away again and me take her home. And, hindsight's 20/20. You can always look back and see what you should have done or how you should have handled it. And I don't know how else we would have handled it, but
I don't either.
But I wish that there had been a different way, because I feel like that was so hard for her and so confusing for her to not understand.
Well, I think we tried to help her understand.
We did.
I think the problem was not her understanding. It was not what she wanted.
Right. Yep.
Which was the hardest part.
Yeah. And that morning too, I brought her, we walked to your house so that she could see, like, it's literally a block away. You can go here anytime you want to go here. It's an open door. And I think that did help, but it still wasn't what she wanted. And it was quick. It was like within a week, I feel like she had gone downhill. She was very sad, and all she wanted to do was go to bed and sleep. And she didn't want to eat anything. And the light in her eyes really had left. She was very sad. And, I thought, well, maybe if we take her to the zoo, or maybe if let's go shopping, or let's, I don't know, whatever, however else I can entice you. I just want you to be happy. Like, you've just lived these horrible years in the orphanage, and I want you to be happy, and I want you to know you're loved and cared for and seen. And we were talking, and I was like, I just don't think that we're where she wants to be. I think you're where she wants to be. Can you talk to her about that? Because I don't know if she understands what I'm saying. And so that's when you had a conversation with her about what she wanted.
Yeah, that week was hard because I didn't want to be present at all for her, because I wanted to make sure that she had the space and the time to be able to connect and attach to you guys, and know that you could provide for her all her needs, and set that up. And I didn't really expect that she would have such a reaction. I mean, I remember her, you were saying, like, her body is completely stiff in the bed. Like, I had to, like, get her up, and her body, and I was thinking, what in the world? Like, she's never done this. I don't understand, and obviously there was a big gap of time that I wasn't in her life, but just based on her personality and who she was. And I felt, I mean, I had all kinds of guilt and all kinds of feelings, because I just thought, I've ruined Rachel's life. Like, here I have asked her to adopt Tia, to get Tia out of China and love her. And they've spent all these years waiting, and your kids, I worried so much about your kids. And like, I can't, like, whenever you asked me to talk to her, I was like, I can't talk to her like that. I mean, I already know what she's going to say.
Right.
And I don't want to crush your family and all these things. So I'm just so torn up in my heart. Right. And I think I even said that to you, like, Rachel, I don't think I can.
Right.
I can't.
Well, and we had welcomed lots of children into our home, and we knew that the first, month, 2 months, sometimes even 3 months is really, really hard. And you're spending time getting to know that child, and you don't know what trauma they've experienced. And so there's going to be behaviors and all of those things, but this just was different. Mm-hmm. It was different than all of those kids we'd welcomed into our home. It was different behaviors, and it wasn't who I had known Tia to be those 2 weeks prior. Mm-hmm. Even in hard situations in China, it wasn't who she was. She had changed in that week. Mm-hmm. And raising children with attachment disorder, that was the last thing that I wanted, was to give a child attachment disorder. I was like, that's where this is going to head. If we can't figure out what she wants and where she wants to be, mm-hmm. and if we force this issue.
I think it was, we first that morning went to the doctor, mm-hmm. because you said, like, I don't think I can take her to the doctor because she's being so, like, defiant. She doesn't want to do the things. And mm-hmm. would you please come with me? And I think you came to Journey School and picked me up. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I was dreading it, because I was like, I don't want her to exhibit loving feelings towards me when I am trying to help her to exhibit loving feelings towards you. And how can I make this happen? I don't know how to make it happen. It's like so out of our control, right? Because this is about her. Mm-hmm. And then you were like, I think you need to talk to her. I think you need to ask her what she wants. And I'm just like, oh, I don't think I should, and I just making me so anxious. Mm-hmm. And I'm not an anxious person typically. And I'm just like, Lord, I don't know what you're doing. And I've been through all these counseling sessions to try to keep my heart like separated from hers. And I'm trying really hard to build this boundary. And then you told me what Walker said, mm-hmm. before you left to go to China. And about, like, even if Tia chooses to go to Miss Melodie's, then mm-hmm. we'll know that we were a part of her life because we got her out. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, was your whole plan in this, Lord? Like, you did this whole roundabout way mm-hmm. to get Tia out, and you laid it on it. He wasn't even a teenager.
No.
I mean, just on this young child's heart, to be able to understand that he could have a part, like mm-hmm. his life, your biological son, his life could matter because his family mm-hmm. got Tia out.
Right. We're the ones making it complicated.
Well, and I was just thinking, like, he's so wise in this, but Lord, why? Like, this doesn't look right.
Right.
And then my
mm-hmm.
brain started going to all the things, like, mm-hmm. what are people going to think? How is this going to look right? And then you said, Melodie, adoption is not about us. It's about the child. Like, we're supposed to do what's right mm-hmm. for the child. And I mean, I would have preached that all day long to someone else, but this situation is what we were in, right? And I was like, what in the world is this going to do? And how is this going to play out? And, at the doctor, she was so sweet and kind. Mm-hmm. And I was like, are you sure she was really acting like that at your house? Because, she was like being really sweet then. So anyway, and we were speaking in English in the front seat. She was in the back seat while we were having this conversation. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while I would like peek back at her because you were driving, she was behind you, and I'd peek back at her and she was like her face, I'll never forget. I'm like, Tia, you doing okay? And she's just got this petrified look on her face, and I'm like, oh Lord, please help her, and please give me peace and help me to know what the right thing is. Mm-hmm. But after, she hadn't been eating.
Right.
And so we picked her up chicken nuggets mm-hmm.
or
something, and we brought her into school because I was like, well, maybe if she sees the other kids, she'll mm-hmm. be excited and maybe she'll eat something. Mm-hmm. And so she was sitting back there at the table just with her nuggets in front of her, and she's just sitting there, and I was like, oh no, mm-hmm. this is not good. And so I just pulled up a chair. I thought, okay, I'm just going to do it. And I said, Tia, how are you? And she was like, barely shook her head, and I'm speaking to her in Mandarin because if I really wanted to address her heart, I would always speak to her in Mandarin. And if I was just speaking generally, I spoke in English because I wanted her to understand English, but I was speaking in Mandarin, and I was like, baby, it seems like you're really sad, and she was just like shaking her head. And I'm like, why are you so sad? And she just looked up at me with these big old eyes, that she has. And she's looking up at me and like, can you tell Mama, why are you sad? Miss Rachel took you to the zoo and Miss Rachel took you shopping. It's so fun. But Miss Rachel said, I was calling you Mommy. I wasn't calling you Miss Rachel. And Mommy took you to do all these fun things. But she said you weren't eating. And, I was like, what does that mean? Do you want to talk to me? And she just, it was just, she was like completely shut down.
Yeah.
And I said, well, Mama's really worried about you. And after we leave here, Mommy said that you could come to Mama's house and have dinner. And she was like, huh? And I said, well, Mommy said you could come to Mama's house and have dinner. If you want to have dinner with Mama and Daddy and the other kids at our house, you could have dinner with us tonight. Do you want to do that? Yeah. She's like a panting dog, And I was like, okay, well, if you want to do that, first, I need you to eat some lunch. I was like, we're going to do a little first in statement. Like, let's get some food in your body and eat some lunch, eat some of your chicken nuggets. And she's like shoveling them in. She had
been hungry.
I was like, okay, well, that's so good that you ate your nuggets. And so I was like, let's just start with dinner. Let's see what happens. You can come over to our house for dinner. And I think we took her home, let her ride home with us and have dinner. And of course it's rice, and she's just like, she had like 4 bowls of rice, with vegetables and all the things. And I was like, okay, are you sure she didn't eat like this? I know you made rice for her that week. So like, what is the deal? And so then we finished dinner and I could see she's starting to get anxious, And I was like, okay, well, it was a Friday night. I said, well, Mommy said you can spend the night with Mama if you want to. And then, we can talk about it tomorrow. But if you want to spend it, and then one of the kids said, which bed are we going to choose her? And then immediately she was out of my sight. She's like gone, and she's upstairs and they're playing. They got the dolls out. They're like picking all the things. And I'm like, oh, Lord, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just so ridden with so much guilt. And I'm just like thinking about you guys. Like, what are you doing at your house? What's going on? How am I going to fix this? Now it becomes a situation that I feel like I need to fix.
Right.
My brain just keeps going not towards what's best for Tia, but like, what in the world,
Right.
What kind of catastrophe have we caused,
Well, that night at our house, we kind of had a little family meeting of, let's check in after this really hard week that we've had and how we, see Tia really struggling and how can we as a family support her and what can we do? And one of my kids, I don't remember which one it was at the time, was like, well, if she wants to live there, why don't you just let her live there? Like, it's so simple. I was like, well, that's an option if that's what she wants. I said, but we have to talk about it with her and we have to make some decisions. And how do you guys all feel about that? And they were like, all of my children were like, well, if that's what she wants, then why don't you just let her do it? The mind of children, we complicated it so much. It was just so sweet to hear all of their responses because I knew how you were feeling. And I knew she was probably over at your house having a great time. Every now and then we would hear Chinese music playing over our Google because she still had the iPad and it was synced to our Google Home. And so, we still got a little taste of Tia that evening.
Yeah. Whether Chinese music piped in or Chinese praise music. Oh my goodness, that was so funny. I'll never forget whenever you text me and you're like, is someone playing Chinese music on that iPad? It went on for weeks.
It did. Yeah.
So I'll never forget the next day you rolled your wagon down the street with all the little things in it. And she was just like rejoicing. And I was dying on the inside. I was literally dying. Not because I didn't want her, right?
Right.
Like, I was also thinking like, of course, Lord, this is what I wanted because I love her. And my heart will always love her just like I love all my kids. But like, what's best, what was the right thing?
Right.
And separating the right thing from what the outside perspective was and the right thing for Tia as a child and her attachment and her, like you said, ruining an attachment that's already there to set up an attachment just
to force an attachment. Yeah.
Right. It's like there's rad. There's your
Mm-hmm.
rad situation.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just,
Right.
walking into some sort of reactive
Right.
attachment. And I don't know. I think the Lord did a lot of work
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of hearts, the hearts of a lot of people around us. A lot of people were very supportive. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't really talk about it.
No.
We definitely didn't talk about it online or
No.
on our social
No.
medias or anything. We've never talked
Mm-mm.
about it on that. But it also kind of feels, well, I'm sure different for me because Tia was just who we were.
Right.
All of our family
Mm-hmm.
pictures have Tia in them from China.
Right.
And then we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And then now Tia's back in our family picture. And so for me, sometimes I forget that there was even that time where she spent away from us.
Right.
And I think in her mind also, that's how she has coped.
Yes.
She has compartmentalized herself she has, I made her some little photo books.
Mm-hmm.
And one photo book has from her time that she arrived, the day she arrived at our home in China, all the way until the day we left to come to America. So I put both of those pictures on the capins and all the time in the middle. And the next book starts with our trip to China.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you got her and she came into the hotel room, like from that moment all the way until the day that I gave her the photo books, which was her birthday of that first year.
Yes.
And I mean, she's worn them completely out. She looks at them every single day.
Mm-hmm.
They sleep with her in her bed. They are her memories. And she'll say to me now, on the very first book, on the first page, when she's in that cute little polka dot outfit, she'll say, "This is when Tia was a baby. When Tia came out of mommy's tummy." That's what she said. Tia came out of mama's tummy when Tia was a baby. And then she'll skip all the way to when we were in China.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll say, "Look, Mama, Miss Rachel, Tia, have so much fun in China."
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, is that what we were doing?
That's what we're doing.
So much
Just a little vacation.
This is our little retreat that we did. Like, and sometimes she'll pick pictures of her and George from the olden days, or little pictures of that. She looks at them all the time, but she doesn't talk about those pictures very much. She skips over to our time in China. And then she talks about all the memories we've had since then. I mean, just constantly. And never does she speak of those days where we weren't together. And I've sort of tried to, pry a little bit out of her, like, does she want to talk about it? And I just don't think she's ready. And maybe she'll never be ready, and that's okay. Because right now, it's all happy.
Yes.
Everything is happy. Tia's happy. Tia's happy all the time. And I love, love, love that we went on that camping trip.
Yes.
So after Tia moved into our house, Rachel, it is just a God thing that Rachel and I have the relationship that we do. I mean, the Lord just really carved that out. And you can't have this situation with all your friends and still be closer than you were before it started. But I said, Rachel, we have to do something so that she doesn't feel like that you're the enemy or that you might take her.
Right. Yes.
Like once we were kind of settled on the fact that she's going to stay at our house, because I think at first I was thinking, okay, well, let's just get her over the hump and then maybe she can transition back into your house. And it became pretty clear that
it was very quickly.
Yeah. Because she was so nervous if we were to see you. She didn't know what to do if you came over. And I know you were neighbors. Like, I was like, we go to each other's house all the time, but like we went to the barbecue and she wouldn't come.
Nope.
She wouldn't stay at home. Yes. So, all the things. I'm like, we can't have this. Like, we have to give her some sort of security. So if this is what we're going to do, if we're all on the same page, then let's do something that makes her know that we're together.
Right.
We're friends. We're not going to separate, but she can stay at my house and we can still be friends. And she can have that relationship. And so we went camping to Dinosaur Valley and we went to Glen Rose and it was so much fun.
It was so fun.
But
all of us crammed into one cabin.
One big cabin, our family, Pancrats. We shared the dinner space and we cooked out and we did all kinds of things. But I think that weekend was so solidifying for her. It was. Because she knew when we walked in, she's like, am I going to sleep on their side or your side? Like, where? Yes. And you were so good. You're like, all right, Tia. And you just started calling yourself Miss Rachel. All right, Tia, Miss Rachel, and all of us are going to sleep over here, and you're going to sleep over there with your mama. and it's gonna be fine. Oh, show me your bed. Which bed are you gonna choose? You know, like all the things to help her to really realize. And then she's like, Miss Rachel. That's when she first started.
It is. It's when she first started calling me that. Yes.
Yeah. And so little things that really started solidifying. And so in that book, I have those pictures from the camping trip in the book that I made her, because I think those are like really pivotal, especially because she was so confused at first, like, what are you doing? And I didn't want her to think about it as a bad thing. Right. And now I know when she looks at that book and she says, Miss Rachel, Mama, me trying to have so much fun. Like, now it is.
Now it is fun.
Now it is fun.
Yes.
Because we did do a lot of fun stuff.
We did. It was a fun trip.
And we tried a lot of things to help her to acclimate. Went to a lot of great hot pot places. But there was a lot of heart in that trip, and so much good came from it. And so now you guys don't live next door or down the street, which is sad for us.
It's true. It is very sad.
We still get to see you all the time, and Tia gets to be a part of your life. And since then, Tia has stayed at your house.
She has.
With my kids.
She has, yes. And just the other day, she came up and handed me her brush and a ponytail holder and asked me to braid her hair for her. And so it's become a very sweet relationship that we have. There's a lot of joy when we see each other, and it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
So, I don't know. I think probably in the depths of my heart, I still haven't been able to fully process like how grateful I am for what you and Chuck did and your kids and how they so graciously. I mean, I know God was working in your kids' hearts.
For sure.
Before COVID, I mean, it was the hearts of your kids and you and Chuck. It would have been totally different.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it was just a totally different mind space. And then waiting all that time, a lot of hard stuff happened during that time for everybody, right? During COVID, and then having to wait and not know she's actually going to come, and then you know, all the back and forth. And then she did come, and then to have your kids say those really mature things. And, you know, I just think that the Lord really, he has a purpose, and he understands.
He does.
And we doubt him. I was just super doubting. I'm like, what is going on? Everyone's lives are going to be ruined. You know, except for Tia, she was living her best life, you know. So I think that her story will always be really special. And I'm grateful to get to share that with you.
Yes. I'm glad she's home.
Yeah, me too. So, this is Tia's adoption story. And we're glad that you
He does for you what you can do. So ask with faith. And remember, he's listening to your cry. And he will do what's best for you. His will is greater than your dreams. So trust him and learn to wait. God's plans are better than your dreams. So dream